Hello, everyone. Welcome to Spiritual Spotlight series. Today, I am joined by Rebecca Campbell, the mystic, author, oracle creator, podcaster, and founder of the Inner Temple Mystery School. Today, we're going to be exploring her newest book, Your Soul Had a Dream, Your Life Is It. Rebecca, thank you so much for coming on the Spiritual Spotlight series. I'm really happy you're here.
Yay. So good to be here with you too, Rachel. Thank you.
So, what inspired the title of this book? Was there a defining moment that called it into being?
Mm. Well, yeah, the first chapter first chapter is called Fall Into My Arms, and it really described this mystical experience I had during my Kirtan teacher training, Kirtan being a form of bhakti yoga, where I entered this altered state. We spoke about this before. I'm like, how deep can I go? You're like, go deep. We like it
Deep.
deep here. So we're going
Yes.
deep. So I had this altered experience where I saw the gates of life. And actually, if anyone's watching this as opposed to listening, behind me is actually a picture from one of my oracle decks, Starseed Oracle, under the same name, Fall Into My Arms, which is a depiction of the mystical experience, where I saw the pathway that souls enter through their first breath and exit through the last. And it was really like in capturing the fullness of the human experience in the sense of like the full polarity, like the grief and the love, the sweetness and the agony, like all of it. And I really saw how it is all part of this journey that we chose to come here for, and that like grief, for example, is evidence of how much we love. And if we close off our hearts to the hard times, we'll also close it off to the good times too. And so that's kind of like, that was really like the energy that I received. And then, yeah, Your Soul Had a Dream, Your Life Is It came. It actually was the first page of my book before that, which is Letters to a Starseed. It's just literally a poetry line. So it had been there for a little while. I'm like, oh, that's a really good book title. So yeah.
It is a really good book title. And what I do like about the book is you do have it broken into three sections, and it's almost like it's a very poetic journey. And you were
Mm,
very vulnerable in sharing about the losses that you've had in your life
mm,
and the trauma that you've gone through and how we're able to get back to healing and integrating
mm,
back. And I just it really resonated very much so with me, with my own life and my own journey,
mm,
and how a soul needs nourishment and how we need to reconnect. And
mm,
it's such a beautiful thing. And I do want to ask you, what does it mean to walk the way of the mystic in a world that is so fast paced and disconnected right now?
mm. Well, the mystic is really the one who knows that they can go direct to the sacred, to God, to the goddess, which is very different to, I think, what most of us are taught growing up. And while I have great respect and honor anyone who's walking any path, like a religious path, or any kind of sacred path. For me, every time I tried to go a traditional route, it just felt like it was dismissing that direct experience. I'd go to the mystical side of, say, Christianity, the mystical side of, the different paths. And I realized, oh no, I'm just a mystic. I just want to have the direct union with God, goddess, with the sacred. And so what that path really requires of us is the courage to go direct, the courage to tend to that relationship in an intimate way as well. And so, one of the principles that I talk about with the way of the mystic is living the question rather than asking the question, waiting for an answer, and then taking the first step once you've figured out every single step along the way. And so it's why it takes a lot of courage. But to me, it's really like living a soul led life. It's really living an intuitive life, like trusting that inner voice over the noise of the outside world, which is, my gosh, like such a challenge these days, especially with technology and scrolling and oh my gosh, it is a challenge. And also at the very same time, we're not meant to be mystics in a cave either. So it is about finding this balance between the two, like the mystic and the machine, you would say, or the mystic and the logic or reason. Both are important. But yeah, finding the balance, that is the big challenge. The way I really do it is it's not about necessarily how much time I spend, but it's about which part of me is leading. So I go in for answers, I get the answer for the next step, and then I'll reorientate my body, my mind, my energy, my day around acting on that. Yeah.
I love that. It's like more intentional living that's present for
Right.
you. I love that.
Right.
So you speak of living in tune with the seasons. How can we
Uh-huh.
honor our own inner winters and summers? And you do mention in the book, like if we only read one book, is to read that book about nature.
Yeah, the mystery school of nature, which is basically going outside and noticing nature, noticing the seasons. Yeah, it is, and we can do that so easily. Literally, just go for a walk each day in nature, notice the seasons around you. We've been so disconnected to us being an extension of nature, us being nature itself. If you look up the dictionary, it specifically says that we are not part of nature. And that is just not true. It is just not true. And it is this severing that has happened that I think is why we're yearning so deeply. We're hungry for connection, but we're also like wanting to be separate, you know. And so I think the simple act of returning to nature can heal so much. And it can also support us in, you know, the hardest thing has got to be about being human is change. It's like the certain thing, it's the one sure certain thing, but it is so difficult to navigate. But if we look to nature and the seasons, it's constantly changing. And so I think when we develop a relationship with the seasons outside of ourselves, it's easier to be like, oh, as the leaves are falling, what's falling away within me? As the buds are coming up in spring, oh, and we feel it regardless, you know. But when you're in relationship with nature, you're like, yeah, I am feeling more inspired. I wonder what new ideas I've got here as the flowers are blooming and we feel like going out into the world. We're bringing those inner feelings into consciousness. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I really respect the living with the seasons of your life. And to also
Mm,
be okay with change because we're always changing.
mm,
The versions
mm.
of ourselves are always evolving and changing. I really like
Yeah.
that. One of the chapters is you say that you come with medicine, not candy. How do we know
Mm,
when we're offering our true soul medicine?
mm. Well, great question. Um, I think it comes with like a feeling of feeling satisfied and like of like it's resonant within us. I think also it's when it emerges from within us rather than like, you know, responding because you think you should or you know, because you're like, oh, I could do that. That person's doing this. I should do that too. Or we're trying to keep up, or, you know, so it's like an external inspiration. Now, if you're scrolling on social media and someone kind of triggers you a little bit and you're like, hang on, I want to do that. Maybe that's giving you inspiration of how you're not expressing yourself. So it's all information, but I think it's about what is rising within you rather than what do you think you should do or what are you trying to avoid, you know, which is that's coming from fear, ego. Yeah.
So, was it hard to share such vulnerable stories in this book? And how did you protect what was still sacred or raw?
Great question. So I, it was interesting with this book because it was written in a extreme period of change, and I know everyone has been changing in that time. The whole world has been going through a death portal for sure. Um, I became a mum in that time. It was COVID. I went through deep healing. Um, and I've completely changed as a person. I'm still the same person, parts of me still. And so it felt like I just can't not say this stuff because I'm not who I was when I wrote my previous, and it was like a whole part of my life was missing. I think as well, I waited. Like I wasn't, while I wrote some of it, some of the poetry, as I always do, to make sense of my experience, because it is through direct experience that I teach, and I kind of feel like it's more like I'm expressing rather than being like, here are the steps to take. It's definitely not a book like that. It's a
No.
book of us all finding our way
Yeah.
through this joint experience that we are on. I also felt really passionate about how important it is to talk about the reality of transformation, the reality of the awakening experience. I think that we are living in a very interesting time where many of us are processing the trauma of ancestry, collective trauma as well. We are also in, for the first time that I'm aware of, we are bombarded with information. We've also, many of us have had these significant awakening experiences. And while the mystics of old have documented it, most of them didn't have kids. Most of them spent their lives up the mountain in a cave. And so I think it's so important for us to bring these deep awakening mystical experiences, these transformative moments that we have, into reality. Because really, I really think this book is really like a book of like integration.
I would
And it's like
agree.
it starts with this incredible mystical experience that you could say was spontaneous, that was like awakening. But and it's easy to talk about these experiences like this happened and then all of a sudden this happened. And that is true. But then also, how long does it take to integrate that?
Yeah.
And that is the spiritual journey. The spiritual journey is not just the big visions that you have. Spiritual journey is, how can I embody it? How can I bring the soul, bring the unseen into form, into matter? So yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. And the thing is, with the spiritual journey, it's always meandering and it's going to take you off on a tangent. And
Yeah.
you may have loss, you may have joy, you may have this, you may
Mm,
have that. And you bring up
mm,
such a valid point about mothers who are mystics and, honoring the mother journey. And then it's just like we don't bring in our motherhood side into our healer
mm,
side. And I
mm,
respect the fact that you brought that into this book that you wrote,
mm,
and it's just like, wow. I really deeply resonated with there was a part in the book where you talked about, like, I think you were just exhausted and you hit a wall, and it was either your mother or your mother-in-law that came to help you. And I was just like, I
mm,
remember, I mean, my son's 16 now. I remember I had the same experience with my own child. And I was like,
mm,
wow, someone else had the same thing. And it was just so
mm,
like, it was like that instant connection. Even if we didn't meet today, it was just like, wow, she sees
mm.
it. She gets it. I love
Yeah.
you talk about the mother wound and how that's
Mm,
our first real experience of grief and loss.
mm,
How can grief um be such a sacred teacher in our life?
mm. Well, it is this evidence of how much we love, you know? And it can also show us what is unresolved.
So true.
Yeah.
So true.
So it gives us information. But I don't know if you've experienced this. I certainly have, where there is those, don't get me wrong, I'd much prefer to be in joy than grief.
Yeah.
And there are these exquisite moments of intimacy that are possible when we're grieving, that aren't possible in any other way. And I'm thinking of particularly like losing loved ones through death, for example, where actually the grief can be almost like your intimate experience with them, your connection with them. And grief, grief, you can tell you've met someone who has like properly hit the bottom, who has properly um, been initiated through it, who has found a way to not let it harden them. And I think this is the invitation of grief. Just like the invitation of birth as well, like through contractions, right? It's like you could be like, and I know everyone has a different birthing experience, but with my one, I would say, and I do think it is possible to have a non-painful birth. Both of mine were very intense. And I remember someone saying to me, yeah, it can be ecstatic though. Even the pain can be ecstatic because you're opening to
Yeah.
life. And I remember being not so much in my first with my son, but with my daughter, which was still very painful for me. But I felt that. I felt that. And it reminded me of grief, where it's just like, whoa, I'm really living now. And how do I, even through the contractions, as much as I want to just like not open again, how can I then, and this is literally in the codes of our body, this is in the codes of nature, we contract and then we expand. And then we contract a bit, not as much as we did before, but then we expand even more. And I think this is what grief is inviting us to do. And I think this is the challenge and triumph of life is how can I get to the end of my life still fully living? How can I have a soft heart, which, it's got bruises on it because I've like gone for it, because I've not put up these barricades.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really like how you said that there is intimacy in grief. And you bring me back to my brother, he committed suicide about I don't remember how long ago. But there was beauty in that grief journey and how we came together as a community to
Mm-hmm.
honor his life, and to mourn him and the loss. But there, looking back on it from what you're saying, there was such beauty and like how the family navigated that tragic event, and to be able
Mm.
to be open and to be vulnerable, have a soft
Mm.
heart and yet bruised, but not let us go into the cave and be shut off from reality. So I really
Yes.
like how you put that because it makes me put
Oh.
like, oh, that's such a good perspective, in life.
Mm.
Like it's okay, you know and
Mm.
I also feel like, and I would ask you this too, I do feel like real heart hurts that happen to us, that opens us up for ascension, awakening, connection to divine, and it's like it just, like you said, it's encoded in our body, and I think it like because you're
Mm.
searching for something deeper meaning, like am I alone in this, and it opens us up to this
Mm.
beautiful journey, and I really like how you said that.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for sharing about your brother. Oh, yeah, I really feel what you're saying about community, like the openings that can come, the healing that can come through like something as agonizing
Yeah.
as mourning the loss of someone. And yeah, and I totally agree. In the book I talk about different like stages of awakening, and I try
Yes.
not to do it like as in like it's step 1, step 2, step 3, because everyone's journey is
Yes.
unique. But what I have noticed is that for many, it tends to be like a mind awakening where that's like, oh my gosh, the world is different to what I was taught or whatever. And then the heart awakening comes through grief. And the invitation of that is to let it stretch your heart wider open. And if you say yes to that, more of spirit, more of soul will drop in. And you're right. And I think as well, when you go through these periods like that, where it's just like, and I have a particularly when I first experienced like deep, deep grief through like loss of friends
Yeah.
passing, and it was the agony, it was the pain, the ache in my heart that was all consuming, that actually led me to step into my work that I do now. And it was because my mind just was like, I just give up. What's the fucking point? Like,
Yeah.
what is happening? Like,
Yeah.
we could all die.
Yeah.
What,
It's like,
what are
okay.
we all doing?
Yeah.
And so my brain was just like, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I don't know I don't. And that was really good because it meant my soul could drop in and be like, fuck it. Like, life's
Let's
short.
go.
Let's go. Like, what's the worst that could happen? It can't be worse than this? Mm.
So, so true. It's so true. Even like as healers today, it's like, who gives a fuck? Like, just live your life,
Mm,
live your soul's purpose, speak your
mm,
truth. You know,
mm,
the people that are meant to be with you will be with you. The people that are
yeah.
meant to fall away will fall away. You do talk
Mm,
about in the book, which I really, really liked, about like the cycles of friendships and being okay with letting go. It's very painful, but it's
mm,
okay, like, to have space for that with your friends, your loved ones. Like, life is
mm.
ever evolving. I really like that. I was like, I loved it. It
Mm,
was so good. So I
mm,
do want to kind of shift a little bit. I know we're talking about grief and stuff, about
mm,
burnout, because I think that's
mm.
so prevalent in today's society. So how has your own experience with burnout reshaped your beliefs around productivity, rest, and sacred pacing?
Oh my God. Like I've got an Aries moon, and so
So
fuck
do
this.
I.
This is a constant lesson for me. I'm also a projector human design. I don't know what you are.
I'm a manifesting
Oh,
generator.
that's good. Well, that works with Aries a bit
I'm just
better,
like,
but
and go.
I love it. Well, I've discovered that I am definitely not meant to be go, go, go all the time, but I'm really good at doing that. So yeah, it's been a definite, like, and I love my work. So yeah, working out where to find balance has been a lifelong journey so far. But I finally feel like I'm committed to balance now. Maybe it took being a mum of two under five.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, it's with technology, with the go go go, with the online world and the visibility of like they're doing this, I should catch up. Da, da, da. It's just exhausting. And I think I've got this I think it's in the book. It's also I've got this new oracle, the Inner Temple Oracle coming out in September. And I've got this card called the Mystic, the Machine. And it's like holding the polarity of that, right? So being the mystic, and the mystic to me is like the artist. It's like living in according to your intuition and your medicine and all of that. And then the machine is modern life, right? So it's like social media, it's AI, it's also just like making shit happen. It's Aries, basically, you know? And so it's basically Scorpio and Aries. How do you marriage the two? And we're meant to marry both of them. It's
Yeah.
not like we should be here or we should be here. It's like, how can we find balance? And for me, it's like, how can I invite the mystic,
Mm.
the soul, the whatever, to be at the center, be the one leading the way. And then when I'm really called to act, go for it. Like
Yeah.
really go for it. Because we don't want to just be living in this kind of like unseen, dreamy world that, oh my God, I can't imagine anything worse than that. What's the freaking point? There's
Right.
no point. But we also don't want to just live in this soulless kind of go, 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 fast, fast, fast. What's the point of it all? So it's like, how do we find the balance of the
Yeah.
two? Yeah.
So it sounds like a theme in your life definitely is balance, and like how
Mm,
to live your soul's truth, but also be present in society and like living your life as a wife, a mother, a partner,
yeah.
like friend. And I like, it sounds like balance is definitely something that's a theme, that's
Mm,
for everyone. That's so important. I like
mm.
that. It's interesting. I'm shocked, and this is not one of my questions, that you brought up like comparing yourself to others, and somebody who is so accomplished. I'm surprised that that's something that you've maybe had a little a tale of, that, to
Well,
like,
I think everyone does because
I'm
it's like I
I'm
can't
having a
imagine
moment.
anyone who doesn't. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
maybe
just,
some people don't at all.
but I respect the fact that you're willing to be like, yeah, I've experienced this. I do feel like it's a separation
Yeah.
contract to compare ourselves and whatnot. Something I'm working on right now, like separation contracts. I think it's a
Oh,
present in my
that
life right
sounds
now.
good.
Like, but it's just like,
Yeah.
wow. But it reminds me to be also gentle on my own self. And it's like, no, don't,
Yeah.
like, what am I gaining here? Like, we all have
Well,
things to go ahead.
I think the whole like modern media world sets it up for that,
The
for us to
glossy
compare. Like as
Instagram.
women, like we're taught this is the way you meant to look. This is, like
Yes.
it's everywhere.
Yes. And how do you disconnect from that? How do you like go within and be like, it's okay. I'm okay.
Well, I mean, I think the number one way is to develop a relationship with yourself and be
Yeah.
led from there. So at least start your day from there. And when I say that, I don't, because I don't actually start my day from there now because I've got young kids. And so I start with my young kids and then I start my day. But you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Like go there first. Like let that be where you're leading from. I
Yeah.
can feel it. Like the days that I don't go for a walk, the days that I pick up my phone before anything else, and that is going to happen. Like I'm not going to pretend that that's not going to happen.
Of
Before I had
course.
kids, I could control that a lot more. I can't control that anymore because I'm like, got to check what day it is at school
Yeah,
and what
like
we need to
what
pack and
activities
da
do
da
I
da da
have?
da.
Do I have snacks? Do I have
Exactly.
this? Am I
So
dropping them off? Are you
yeah,
doing it?
exactly. So I could be more, I could start have my mornings as the mystic in the cave, and then the afternoon I'd be productive. I can't do that like in the same way anymore, which is actually really good. Like, because like who wants to just hear from a mystic in a cave? Maybe some people, I don't know.
We want
um,
reality.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Um, but like prioritizing that. So that's a big thing.
Mm,
And then I think that another thing is like it's all core inner child
yeah.
reparenting stuff of like why am I actually doing this? Like why do I actually care about this? You know,
Yeah.
and I think there's always a deeper layer to be found. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you bring up nature a lot. So what has your relation with nature taught you that no teacher ever could?
Whoa. Hmm. Well, the first thing I would say is that like you you you're like a portal to all of the wisdom that ever was, is, and will be. But it's through the connection with nature that you can do that. So a tree, a flower, you could ask it a question just like you would an oracle, just like you would anything. And so it's that like you can go direct to the sacred. Like it is right there in front of you. That is, I think I had gotten that maybe intellectually before, but it's literally right there in front of us. And we've been taught to look elsewhere and there's nothing wrong with this. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but I'm saying I think that we've been gypped because we've been taught you meant to go to books, you meant to go to um people who are more wise than you. And those things are really good and we should. And you don't have to jump any hoops to connect. You can connect to the sacred any moment of any day. It's not just a man in the sky. It's not just a professor who's written a book or whatever. It is available to you any moment of any day.
Absolutely. I like that you talk about going direct, like, and I envision that with like when I'm working with my crystals, like I just pick it up and it's like, what's the
Mm,
vibration that I'm getting from this? Or if I'm working with the elementals and I want to, talk to the gnomes or whatever, like, or looking at a
mm,
tree. And every morning I love the sunrise and it's always like, thank you. I love the sunrise
mm,
and the magic that the sunrise brings. And,
mm.
for those that might be new to going direct, how can they begin to connect with the sacred within?
So I would say in relation to nature, I'd just say literally just notice nature. Just in whatever small way you can. Say you're picking up your kids from school, you're waiting for them, there's a tree there. Notice what season it is. You'll probably know intellectually what season it is, but just notice like, oh, there's little buds that are forming there. They've not bloomed yet. Oh, they're quite tight. Oh, they look a bit different to what they did yesterday. Oh, look how beautiful that is. Oh, it's a little lady beetle. Oh, it's so alive, you know? And so you're noticing the sacred that's there, right? Because
Yeah.
when you do that, you're also you're in connection with life itself. That same intelligence that tells the flowers when to bloom, the leaves to fall when the seasons change, exists within you too. And
Yeah.
so we've been cut off from that. So that's a really, really, really simple way that you can have that direct experience with the sacred. Another way is in the same way as like just noticing the life essence within a tree, within a plant, within the sunrise, sunset, moon, whatever, you can just look at yourself in the mirror and just see if you can, like, you soften your gaze and look at yourself. And then there'll be like this shift where you like are like, whoa, oh, I can see myself here. You can do the same thing. And I did this with when I first began working after my son, and I'd come home, and I remember, I think my mother-in-law was visiting at the time, and it was lovely. Like, I loved that she was there, but I noticed that I was feeling a little bit like jealous that I didn't have like my time with him because like everyone was around, and then I had just started work and stuff. And I told my husband, and he's like, so just take your baby, like do whatever you want. I'm like, oh yeah. And so I took him, and I was doing bath time anyway, like bath time was happening, but I'm like, no, I want to have this connection. So we ended up turning it into like we would have a bath together every night. And we don't do it every night now, but it's still a thing that I do with my son. And like when he was a little baby, I would like sing him a little song, and I'd like look him in the eye, and it took exactly the same amount of time as if I was like doing the job of
Yeah.
bathing him. But I turned it into a form of connection. So no matter how busy our life is, no matter what we're doing, we can do that. Same thing. You take a strawberry, you're going to cut a strawberry up and eat it. I guarantee you, if you ordered that strawberry and you didn't know what a strawberry was, and you didn't know it just grew naturally, and you put it in your mouth, you'd be like, oh my God, is this made by a Michelin chef? What? It, it's available every
Yeah.
moment for us. We don't
Absolutely.
need to spend an hour meditating to connect with it. It's through the senses, it's through the body. And that's the other thing, particularly as women, men too, but particularly as women, we've been told to disconnect from the sensual nature of life, from the
Yeah.
beauty. Yeah.
That's actually a very valid point that you bring up, that we've been shamed to disconnect from that sensual part of life. And it's,
Mm-hmm.
especially for women and how society deals with that now. And I do feel like
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of becoming a reawakening to kind of reconnect women back to that sacred path of sensuality. And it's doesn't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily mean an orgasm. It could be just the beauty in a strawberry, you know?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, like running your fingers across material, or
Yeah.
smelling a rose. You're just taking a second more. It doesn't take long.
Yeah, you remind me just yesterday, in my day job, I'm a registered nurse and I run a doctor's office in my day job. And one of our staff members, she brought us in these beautiful roses. And it was just
Mm,
such a beautiful moment. And I sat there and I made a point to smell it. Left it on my desk and I'm just like, wow, what a beautiful little moment to reconnect back to nature in this busy
mm,
doctor's office, her to give us that beautiful
mm.
gift. It was so nice. So nice.
So true.
So true. So you have a podcast returning. So
Hmm.
what inspired your podcast returning? How does storytelling play a role in spiritual remembering?
Mm. Well, I think why I wanted to do a podcast was um, at the time when I created it, it was in those years where there was just so much reactivity on social media. I was starting to really not enjoy social
Mm,
media, and it felt like I couldn't share my voice with like nuance and share what was actually true,
yeah.
because multiple things were true. And it felt like, yeah, I'm sure you find it as well, like being able to just speak or have
Yes.
conversations. It was like you could just like say what's happening rather than be like, I'm going to teach you what I've learned, because it's like we learn through experience, and
Yes.
we're always figuring things out along the way. So that was really why I wanted that format, I guess, the
Yeah.
longer format. And then um as far as why returning, so it's returning to the wisdom within. It's just returning to yourself, coming
Mm,
back to yourself, coming back to yourself. Yeah.
I like that. So, what have you learned about the importance of spiritual community in this modern moment?
Hmm, good question. Um, I would say that it's just really important to be able to show up where we are and how we are, and to have safe spaces for us to be able to do that without like someone giving you an intuitive reading or fixing you or whatever. Like, just to realize that, like, when things aren't working out, it's not a bad thing. It's not about like fixing each other or healing each other. It's just about like properly living, letting life open us and expand us and initiate us and integrate through it. So I think that is the most important thing when it comes to spiritual community. People who can just hold space for where you are rather than try and help you be some place that you're not quite yet.
Like that. And for our final question, if someone listening is awakening but unsure of the next step, what soul deep wisdom would you offer as a golden thread to hold on to?
Mm, I would say that if you are experiencing an awakening, and I do believe that the awakening journey never ends, but we can go through intense periods, that there is an intelligence to it. Just like there's an intelligence to birth, there's an intelligence to the flowers opening. So to trust in that and stay connected to whatever it is that you believe in. You might call it grace, you might call it God, you might call it soul, spirit, whatever, light. Just keep connecting to that, because when we are opening, which I think is a form of awakening, awakening isn't a form of that. We're just expanding, expanding, expanding. We need to integrate it, and it's normal to, it to be like, in as you go through a period of transformation, just like the butterfly, it goes from like one state to another, and the bit in between, it's just like messy gunk. And so don't judge yourself if it's like, this should be taking less time, or I should be getting this more. It's the transformation is the integration period, and it's so important. And you will get through it. Just keep holding on to grace if it's feeling a little scary.
Absolutely. Well, Rebecca, I want to thank you so much for coming to Spiritual Spotlight series. It's truly been amazing to connect with you. I
Thank you,
remember
Rachel.
your book, The Light is the New Black, which I have right over there. Your Oracle
Oh,
card decks has truly been like, I feel like you've been a partner in so many people's awakening journey. And I just want to thank you so
oh,
much for offering your wisdom and your grace today.
oh, wow. Thank you, Rachel. It's been just lovely talking with you. Such good questions.